I think what's really interesting is that the topics themselves haven't changed, but how people are talking about them are. I think the last couple times I was here, there was still a high degree of uncertainty and indeed anxiety. The tone I'm hearing today is just very solution oriented and collaborative. So you have agencies, you have marketers, you have media companies, you have measurement providers, and people are just trying to solve things. People are just trying to make things better, make the ecosystem better, understand each other's point of view. So I really like that. I mean, it's a coalition for innovative media measurement, but it's really about bringing people together, and that's what I'm seeing quite clearly.
Speaking of conversations shifting, it seems like there was a big either or conversation. TV was either all going streaming or linear is dying or not. Now there seems to be acceptance that it's going to be multi-screen for a while.
So, most of us don't like versus, right? Because that's really not how the world operates, and that's certainly not how consumers operate. The consumers aren't in the linear versus streaming or this pipe versus that pipe dynamic. They're like, I'm going to get the content I love the best way that works for my lifestyle, where I am today, my access points, and so on. And so as media companies, and certainly that's true for CBS, we're about making the best content, right? We're about making the biggest, best shows out there, and we let the consumer choose how she wants to watch it. So Fire Country, huge on linear, new show last year, huge on streaming. Same for Ghost, and that's also true of our classics like NCIS. And you can go on and on with all the examples, but I think we've also learned that we shouldn't approach the world as one versus the other, because that's not how consumers operate. But you can also get to different audiences and audiences where they are. We've talked about this a lot. The median age on linear versus streaming is about 20, 25 years old. That's the difference. And that's great, because if a person wants to access it one way, who's, say 50 years old, they have an access point, and someone else is 25 years old, they have a different access point. We're meeting everybody where they are, because what cuts across all of it, what unifies all of them together, is the content itself and the storytelling.
It's been a weird season, with starting out with a writer's strike and actor strike. Things are there's hope on the horizon. What have you seen in terms of different patterns so far?
So what I will say about this business is that it's never boring. You always learn something new. And I think I'll look back to COVID for a second, right? No one wished that on anyone, obviously. But we learned about our deep resilience and creativity, both as human beings and as executives. And I think that's what we've learned here too. How do you think deeply? How do you, do the right thing? And how do you innovate? So I want to share some of the innovations, right? Though I can't tell you how excited we are to get the new shows back on the air. But some of the innovations are, around Yellowstone on CBS, for example, because we knew there was a great audience. We knew it was the #1 show in the country at many points in time. But we also knew through our research that 80% of the country hadn't watched it. So here was an opportunity to bring it to audiences who hadn't watched it before. And the data is just flowing in, but it's really interesting. About half the people hadn't watched it before and are enjoying it for the first time. And then there are half the people who are rewatching it from the beginning. So you're servicing all of these different needs and all of these different subgroups because you got to experiment.
Lastly, what are you seeing in terms of news is obviously of most importance. What are you seeing right now in terms of viewership patterns or interesting stories in the media?
So again, the data for this particular week is still rolling in and so on. But what we're seeing is news, sports, and entertainment, those cornerstones of television, play a critical role. Nothing else out there in terms of other media can just come in and substitute for it. So people watch entertainment, and people even watch supersized entertainment right now. We have a 90-minute Survivor, 90 minutes Amazing Race, for example, tonight, and there's a room for that. There's room for that, and there's obviously news for sports and live sports, and the same holds true for news as well. And I think that on news, right? One point I will make is there's a role and a passion and an interest in what is global and international. There's a role for what is national, and there's a deep role for what is local. So many of the innovations you will see from us in the news space won't necessarily be apparent in a declaration or a story, but in the back room you will see a lot of changes. We've talked about our news desk that's been rolled out for a while now, where people can easily and seamlessly move between local, national, and international stories and pick up on the right thing for audiences of that moment because those teams are working together.